Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with another tea to explore, taste, hopefully enjoy together. Got my water ready, got my equipment ready, got my tea ready. And go ahead and scoop out enough to cover the bottom, the usual inch to inch and a half diameter. Don't want too much though. My 3-ounce gaiwan, a little bit more. Oops, dropped a leaf. Get in there. That looks good. Water has been brought to an early boil. It started to kind of roll and rumble, but not a full rolling 212 degree temperature. So I've got enough there. My water, with a nice gooseneck kettle like this, you're able to kind of pour, let that water swirl, flow, tuck those leaves underneath the surface of the water. I actually want just a little bit of water above the rim of my lid. I want that water level a little bit higher so that air doesn't get in and change the color of my tea liquor yet. So while that's steeping, and I'll probably get some, start a little bubble starting to work its way out. There it goes. Talk about this tea and introduce it. This is from Teavivre. This is their Nonpareil, Gong, Huang, Shan, Feng. You can get a sample for a 5-gram size sample for $3 on the Teavivre website. This is from Shan County in Huang, Shan mountain or city area of Anhui province. Information on the website. I'm looking to see if it reflects it here on this particular sample. It does not. Harvest time, March 28th, 2014. This is a spring harvest tea. So, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this tea as far as the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and of course the liquor. Getting into the sensory experiences here. Let's start off here with the dry leaf. Sweet aromas, sweet green, sweet pea flower, a little bit of a kind of a sweet creamed spinach smell coming out, plus a little bit of toasty kind of aspect. Lightly baked. Think freshly baked buttery biscuit. There's a little bit of that coming out. A little bit of a lightly toasted nut, maybe a very lightly roasted almond kind of note coming out. Scooping out a few of these leaves. Let's have a look at these. Now, Huangshan Maofeng is a fairly well-known, I would say one of the most well-known green teas. Say after Longjing. This is probably one of the most second most common. And you can get various sizes. You can get various grades of this. This particular one, you're getting smaller, younger leaves. Inch to inch and a half in length, the ones that I'm picking up here. I've seen them much longer. I've seen 2 inches or longer. I pick up here a leaf, and it looks like a leaf and bud. It looks like I definitely see a tip or bud, and it looks like I see 2, 3, maybe 4, 3.5, 4 leaves there together. I see some individual tips here, where with some small young leaves coming off the sides of those tips. Color-wise, a green gray, mostly green over towards an olive drab, leaving a bit of a grayish color. Some yellow tinges coming out here and there too. These colors, I would suspect, are related to the kind of leaf used. The timing of the leaf, as far as age, is when it was as it developed, and some of this can be affected by the drying process. The processing can give it a yellowish type color. So, having looked at that, I'm going to go now and get ready to pour my liquor. I need to angle my lid over to the side on my gaiwan here. Middle finger and thumb are going to hold the bowl with a little bit of support from my other fingers, but my index finger is going to hold the lid in place. Actually, my opening is just a little bit wider than I like, but that is going to pour fairly smoothly by keeping my lid angled to the side. The air is able to enter through the top. Gives you a nice smooth pour out the bottom. Let me set that aside. Give this a shake. Those leaves settle back down to the bottom. And now get into the wet leaf here. Give it a smell. Beanie notes, lima bean type notes. I often get this from Chinese greens that have been fired, oftentimes with a wok type situation, or a pan fired type scenario. Some with the heat elements, other heat elements, it's possible too. Less so with, say, Japanese steamed greens. As it cools a little bit, you're starting to pick up some of those sweet notes, the green, the cream spinach coming out a little bit more of a buttery note coming out as well. Let me put these little pieces of leaves that stuck to the lid and kind of be more selective. Pull out a few leaves here. What do I have? I have, for example, here it's a leaf still wrapped around the tip or the bud there. It's a mature leaf. It was on its way to separating from the rest of the tip there. So you have some nice leaf bud sets there. Let me see, because looking at these leaves, the wet leaves here, they're more uniform in color. They're a brighter green yellow color. They look to be more weighted towards the tip or bud. As far as total leaves, in the wet leaf, it looks like what I have here is closer to, say, I don't know, maybe 80% tips, while what I saw in the dry leaf looked to be a little bit less than that. I don't know, maybe 60%. So some of that is the way that when these leaves steeped, how the water affected them, and some of that was just kind of variations from serving to serving. Picked out one here that I wanted to note because it does have some blackened elements to it here and there. They got a little overly toasted in this particular case. So you'll notice once in a while there'll be that kind of thing can happen. And of course that blackened will affect the overall profile of this particular steeping to a certain degree. So going now to the liquor and holding that up to the light, you have a pale yellow color there. Give that a pour. I'll give it a smell. A little bit of the green bean. I take that back. It's more of the lima bean still underneath. It's fainter. It's lighter. It's underneath more of a boiled sweet corn kind of smell. You get a taste of this. Astringency, light. So it's got a bit of a very light, very gently powdery kind of texture to it. Overall, the flavor component seems to be kind of light as well. So you can detect a bit of that lightly nutty element there, that toasted nut that you could get from the aroma of the dry leaf. doesn't as far as mouthfeel, it doesn't give a thickness of brothiness. It's more of a thinner, a lighter, closer to a more watery type of texture or feel. You get a bit of the bean element again in the profile, and a little bit picking up in the aftertaste as well. As it cools, starting to pick up a bit more. It's getting a bit more of a boiled corn. If you boiled your corn, your fresh summer sweet corn, and then you kept the broth and drank that, you get a bit of a sweetness. You get a bit of a starchy element, and that kind of sweet corn / starchy element is picking up as this tea cools. And I'm going to kind of give another pour and see how this does as it cools off a bit more. Yeah, now it's starting to pick up more so. The texture is getting a bit richer and thicker too. So you have to let this cool a little bit to kind of detect some of these elements, or to detect them in their fuller intensity. Aftertaste wise, it's getting a bit more of that kind of a starchy yet sweet, kind of slightly dry, starchy kind of feel, yet sweetness in the aftertaste. Combined, they give a richer sensation. And so overall, looking at this one, not as much complexity, not as much intensity, and not just intensity, but kind of a richness in the texture going on here with this particular tea. And that, so with those factors, I have to give this one, dial it back a little bit on the score. I'd probably give this one, my first reaction is 86. Some nice components. You may have to kind of work with this tea a little bit to find that zone that you're looking for as far as intensity, complexity. What happens as it's higher in temperature versus as it's lower in temperature. Things that you'd want to consider. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find out more about teas. You can have tea reviews delivered to your inbox. You can subscribe to the member content, where you get more information via the in-depth articles, interviews, talking with tea people, learning about origins, and those things can be found at Walker Tea Review.